Take it or leave it. President Duterte taking a hard line on the private water distributors, threatening to take over the industry if they don't accept the new concession agreements that are supposed to replace what the firebrand leader describes as onerous and disadvantageous contracts. Now, can the government really do the job better? Will this move benefit the over 16 million customers of Maynilad and Manila Water in the long run? Or will this just spook investors while achieving little of the reforms it hopes to address? Hello, I'm Mike Yoreta, and this is the championship round of Square Off Season 18, the VNA Law Debates.
I want billionaires inside the prison. Makatikim talaga yung mga na yan.
After weeks of being on edge, finally a compromise.
What we are ready to give to the parties, the distributors, is a draft which we would like to be involved instead of the old one, which we think is not good for the Philippines.
It seems that the Duterte administration is bent on replacing what it describes as the onerous water contracts with a new one.
Either they accept with no guarantee that they will not be prosecuted, or if they do not accept it, then I will nationalize the water system and prosecute them for plunder or stuff on a large scale.
It's like putting a gun on their heads, but of course the impact will depend on whether the concessions really find it acceptable or not. But I think any move to nationalize the abrogate the contract unilaterally without due process, that will have a huge negative impact on investment.
From the government back to the government again. Water used to be managed by the state, that is, until the crisis in the 1990s. Between limited access to clean water, a 60% leakage rate, and a ballooning debt, the Ramos administration decided to bid out the distribution contracts. Maynila bagged the West Zone concession area, while Manila Water bagged the East Zone concession area. But now, with another looming water crisis, a shortage gripping the metro since the start of last year, and an arbitral award in favor of private companies, all eyes are back on these concession agreements. Justice Chief Maynardo Guevara, for his part, assures the public and the water distributors that the new contracts will be fair.
The revised concession agreement that the government is preparing will remove all the provisions that are considered onerous or highly disadvantageous to the government and to the people. So I guess that is something that even the water concessionaires themselves will probably agree to.
The new contracts are expected to be finalized within 6 months. Until then, the fate of the concession agreements and the conglomerates involved hang in the balance. So, should these water companies be nationalized? Arguing for the affirmative side is the University of San Jose-Recoletos. And taking on the negative side is CorJesu College. The last two standing in a final battle of words and wit. Hailing from the Queen City of the South, the University of San Jose-Recoletos is a first-timer in the square-off finals.
The University of San Jose-Recoletos strategy really is teamwork and in-depth research. I have teammates who pay very particular attention to detail, and of course we have the best coaches.
We have a very supportive school who has been there all the way from elimination rounds to semifinals.
Opposing them, a school from down south that has been on this stage twice.
CorJesu College's strategy for the finals is that we really bank on the research and make sure that we have an in-depth understanding of a topic.
Despite all the trials and the calamities that we faced, we are still here, standing strong, competing, and very resilient.
Will the University of San Jose-Recoletos finally taste their first championship?
To CorJesu, let's do well in the finals, let's enjoy the debate, and keep it a friendly and healthy competition.
Or will experience pay off for Season 6 winner and Season 16 finalist, CorJesu College?
To the team USJR, we've been here before. We want the championship so bad and we won't let this pass.
Which team will reign supreme in Season 18 of Square Off the VNA Law Debates? Let's now meet our distinguished judges. First off, we have attorney Pauline Marie Gairaton, an associate at the VNA law firm. She's also a champion debater of Square Off Season 9. We also have attorney Ruth Nicole Ureta, a junior partner at the VNA law firm. And we have attorney Rene Pilapel, the head of legal affairs of ACDI Multipurpose Cooperative. He also competed in Square Off Season 8. Next is Dean Maria Soledad Margarita Derquito Mawis of Lyceum of the Philippines University College of Law. She's also the chairperson of the Philippine Association of Law Schools. And presiding as our chief adjudicator this evening is attorney Joseph Anthony Lopez of the VNA Law Firm. We're using a modified Oregon Oxford format. The debate is between two sides, the affirmative and the negative, with 3 members each. Each debater from the affirmative side argues the necessity, beneficiality, and practicability of the proposition, while the counterpart debaters on the negative side oppose these arguments. Each debater is given 4 minutes to deliver a constructive speech and rebut the previous argument. Each debater is given 2 minutes to interpolate or cross-examine the opposing debater. Only categorical questions may be asked. Each of the judges may ask 1 question of each speaker within that speaker's time limit. The judges score each team in terms of manner, matter, and interpolation. The team with a higher score from each judge gets a point. The team with the most number of points wins the debate. The chief adjudicator rules in the event of ties, objections, or contestations. This week's proposition, let it be resolved that water companies should be nationalized. Now, first up for the affirmative side, we have Jelaida. Jelaida, you've got 4 minutes to tell us why water distribution should be returned to the government's control.
Your Honors, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. We come to this championship match to argue that in order to address the water crisis of our country, the government should nationalize the water companies. Your Honors, nationalization is the transfer of ownership and control from first, private to public, and second, municipal to national. And we do this through expropriation as an implement of police power. And Your Honors, by water companies will limit this to those involved in sourcing and distribution of water for municipal use, like Maynilad, Manila Water, Prime Water, and the local water districts. Your Honors, according to the World Resource Institute, the Philippines has an annual water resource of 479 billion cubic meters. This translates into an annual per capita availability of 6,100 cubic meters, which is twice that of the rest of Asia, and 6 times on the global threshold capacity, Your Honors. This just means, Your Honors, that all throughout the Philippines, we have more than enough water resources that are available. In fact, at present, we have 861 dams and in the entire country and 28,504 deep wells in the Visayas alone. Your Honors, but despite this abundance, we still suffer and experience water shortage in specific areas. For example, in Manila, in a report, the Committee of Metro Manila Development stated that the reason for the water shortage in Manila is that the water resource in the area could no longer catch up with the demand. We in Cebu, Your Honors, also are not strangers to the water shortage. Your Honors, at present, the government cannot tap regional water sources and distribute them to areas that need the water the most, Your Honors. To put it simply, under the status quo, the government's hands are tied. And the reason for this is that under the present setup, Your Honors, the distribution and sourcing of water is localized and privatized. Upon issuance of the NWRB of a permit, the water firms can now extract water from water sources and sell them to the consumers for a fee. And also under the Water Code, upon granting of the permit, the firm that is granted the permit has the exclusive right to exploit the resources, Your Honors, within the coverage. This means that the water sources all around the country, Your Honors, are under the coverage of the water rights of either the local water districts or the private firms, Your Honors. And this leads to the inevitable situation where water is now privatized. And this is when the government should come in, Your Honors. Team USJR proposes that in order to address the water crisis of the country, the government should take back control over both sourcing and distribution of water by nationalizing the water companies. Your Honors, by nationalizing the water companies, the government can fully implement cross-border water sharing in order to achieve equitable distribution of water. This will allow the government. Yes, Your Honor.
But won't that go against the trend of privatizing public industries?
Your Honors, while privatization has served its purpose, Your Honors, it is our position that in order to achieve equitable distribution of water, the government should nationalize the water companies. Your Honors, this will allow the government to tap water resources from areas who have more than enough water and distribute them to areas who need water the most, Your Honors. And for example, in Manila, Your Honors, the water shortage in Manila can be remedied by tapping the Cagayan Valley region, which has 11.3 billion cubic meters, or the Southern Tagalog region, which has 7.89 cubic meters, Your Honors. And this will address the water crisis in Metro Manila and eventually all over the Philippines, Your Honors. Thank you.
2 minutes for the cross-examination.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening, Jemima.
Thank you. Council, would it be safe to say that you're fully aware of the circumstances surrounding the water crisis vis-a-vis the 1994 water crisis?
Yeah, that was before. And the crisis now is different.
Council. Please respect my time.
Okay.
This is my time to ask. Council, was it not true that the reason for the crisis which exists in 1994 was because high rate of water being wasted?
Yes, that was distribution.
That is 61%.
And the problem now is the water
Thank you,
resource,
Council. Next question.
Different.
Was it also true that in 1994, not all consumers have access to the water
the problem
being supplied?
then was
Yes, thank
distribution.
you, Council.
The
I will
problem
lead
now
you to
is the
my
water
point.
resource.
Now, Council, is it not true that Maynilad and Manila Water have already reached almost all consumers, if not all,
Yes, but
which
they
is
don't
a
have
total
water
of
resource anymore. They don't have
2.442
water
households. Yes, from 799,000 to 2.42 million.
Yes, they
and
can
that
reach the
improvement
households,
is
but they
brought
don't have
about
water.
by privatization. Thank
What's the
you.
point of having
Next
connection
question,
when you
Council.
don't have water?
If the 1994 problems have been addressed by the water
Yes, but the
concessionaires,
problem on
then why
distribution.
are we facing water crisis
Because
now?
the
Let us
crisis
dig
now is
deeper.
the water resource
Is it
and
not
not
true
the distribution council.
No,
Yeah.
please respect my time,
I'm
Council.
respecting your time. I'm just
Council,
explaining
was it
that
not the
crisis
problem
then
of
is
the
different.
government to look for new resources?
That's why we're nationalizing.
Yes, it
We're
is. It's the duty of the
water
National
system.
Board to look for water resources aside from
And that's
Angat
what
Dam.
we are
If the
doing,
government
Council.
look at for new water resources all this dam, how can we expect that the government can manage our water properly with a history and judge that even privatization is flawed,
What's
but
the
public
question,
water is
Council?
worse? Thank you. I have no more question, Council.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Jemima, you have 4 minutes to advance your argument on why the government must not nationalize the water companies.
Section 20, Article 2 of the 1987 Constitution provides that the state recognizes the indispensable role of the private sector, encourages private enterprise, and provides incentives to needed investments. Private entities do not only offer wealth and job, they also play a very vital role in solving our country's multifaceted and socio-economic problem. Good evening, evening, ladies and gentlemen, your honors. Tonight, Team CorJesu of Diga City forcefully contends and will prove to you that nationalizing the water companies is not necessary, beneficial, nor practicable. It is our submission that government and private sector partnership is the most feasible solution to our problem that the water industry is facing today. But before I proceed, a few rebuttals from the affirmative speaker's wrong contention. Your honors, the affirmative failed to comprehend that the water source in Manila is only focused on the Angat Dam, which is now in critical level. Cross-border sharing of water is costly, your honors, and the Philippines is financially incapable of doing that. Precisely why we have our private partners to help us. Proceeding to my constructive, your honors, there is no necessity to nationalize the water companies because it is not the answer to the water crisis that Metro Manila is facing today. The solution to this problem is not to do away with our private partners, but rather to regulate these water companies by properly formulating agreement terms which are not prejudicial to the government. Yes, your honors.
Will the poor have less access to clean water through privatization?
Thank you, Your Honors. Your Honors, the access to water has significantly increased since 1997, and now the private companies are allotting another 100 billion for infrastructure to be able to reach out our poor people, our poor stakeholders. Thank you, Your Honor. I proceed. And by this, we mean re-examining the concessionaire's agreement of 1997 and removing provisions which are violative of our laws, such as a non-interference clause, indemnity clause, and inclusion of corporate taxes, concession fees, and debt service payments to water rates and the like. As ruled in the case of Republic versus Meralco, the regulation of rates to be charged by public utilities is founded upon the police power of the state. Yes, your honors.
Council, are you trying to forward a counter proposal in your rebuttal? Is your counter proposal that we adopt their model of sourcing water from sources external to Metro Manila, but that it be done through private
No,
funding?
your honors, we are not actually adapting their model. What we are forwarding, your honor, is that we continue with privatization and we strengthen this privatization. We allow the private companies to continue with the infrastructure because even in Malina alone, we have waters that we can tap, such as the Kaliwa water, your honors. Thank you. Proceeding, it is the public purpose and affected with public interest. Yes, your honors.
But isn't your proposal premised on a voluntary concession on the part of the private companies? And how can you make this mandatory from government requiring a change in the contractual provisions?
Yes, your honor. If these water companies do not agree to the new agreement that the government is proposing, then we will open the privatization to other companies which are willing to take in, your honors. Thank you.
2 minutes for the cross-examination.
Good evening, Jemima.
Good evening.
I take it that you've read the water code, right?
Yes.
So you are aware that water rights is the privilege granted by the government to use and appropriate water.
Yes.
And of course, this water right is exclusive to the permittee, right?
Yes.
And so, a firm is granted water rights has exclusive right over the area covered by the permit.
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of Article 19 of the Water Code?
Yes.
Okay. So you are aware that under Article 19, any lease, transfer of these water right to another permit holder is subject to the agreement of the parties.
Yes.
Yes, correct. So if the parties do not agree, then there's nothing that the government can do, right?
Yes, but we can actually transfer it to
Are
other
you
water
aware that
companies
Maynilad
are willing to
and
take
Manila
in.
Water have water rights?
Yes.
Okay. So if Maynilad and Manila Water also have water rights and Manila Water wants to access the service coverage of Manila Water, and if Maynilad refuses, it can, right?
No, that is why we are regulating.
You said it was
that is why
consensual.
we
Okay,
want
that's
regulation
yes, actually yours.
of
It's
these water
consensual.
companies.
So
that
if
it will
Maynilad
be
refuses,
beneficial to
the
both
government
sectors.
cannot compel, right? if Manila refuses, the government can
Yes,
compel.
it cannot.
Yes,
And
thank
we
you.
do not
No further
need the
questions,
Manila
Your
to do
Honor.
it alone. We can open it to water companies. Thank you.
Let's now hear from the second affirmative speaker. Cristel, you've got 4 minutes to tell us why it would be beneficial for the government to take back control of water distribution.
Your Honors, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Your Honors, the CorJesu is misrepresenting or the data they have gathered. If in-depth research has been made, they would know that 1994 problem was different from the current problem of water crisis. The problem then was the service connections. It was now solved by the private firms. The problem now is the water sourcing. The CorJesu is pointing out that government and private partnership. However, they have not provided enough mechanism how government and private firms would work out together to resolve the water crisis. And also the water rates, Your Honors, are skyrocketing despite the water crisis right now. And it would only be costly if it passes through these water firms, Your Honors. Your Honors, the nationalization of water companies is beneficial as it would, one, it would rationalize the water management system of our country, and two, it would lead to lower prices for consumers and generate revenue for the government. Your Honors, the CorJesu's counter-proposal does not provide a long-term and viable solution. As long as water is privatized, these water firms cannot source out water outside their jurisdiction due to legal and practical impediments. The nationalization of water companies allows the establishment of an integrated government-owned water system working under one national water plan. Yes, Your Honor.
Exactly, can the government solve the problem of water sourcing?
Yes, Your Honors, the problem can be resolved through nationalization since, as mentioned by our first speaker and clarified by our first speaker, we will get water sources from different places in the country from Aparit to Holosulu with interconnecting pipes. Your Honors, there are yes, Your Honors.
Rather than nationalizing, can the government allow the private institutions to do that tapping from other sources?
Yes, Your Honors, we're not contending that the private firms cannot do that. However, should we do this, Your Honors? Because if we go through these private firms, the burden will be passed to the consumers because of the higher prices or rates, Your Honors, despite the water crisis that we are facing right now. Continue. Yes, Your Honors.
Is it the position of your team then that it is likely that when decisions are made by private companies, they are objectionable to the public?
Not necessarily, Your Honors. However, what we are saying is that under the water code, there must be consent with the private water firms that is not feasible to the current setup, because of course the private firms are protecting their own interests, Your Honor, since they are also concerned with their own people under their jurisdiction, and the USJR proposes that it is not feasible, Your Honors. Proceeding. With this framework, regional water utilities with control over water sources such as Magat Dam and Pinakanawan Dam can supply water to regions where there is less, such as Metro Manila, Your Honors. This framework is called the equitable distribution of water resources throughout the country, and this is only achievable through nationalization, Your Honors. With an integrated government-owned water system, the 4 major groundwater reservoirs in the country can be pulled together to supply the areas where there is water scarcity, Your Honors. Your Honors, furthermore, it rationalizes the water management system. Yes, Your Honors.
Can the government just allow the integration of these systems without the need to nationalizing the water companies?
No, Your Honors, it is not possible under the current setup because as mentioned by our first speaker, it is not prohibited, it is not allowed by our water code since the water code provides exclusivity over these private firms. Furthermore,
2 minutes now for the cross-examination.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening, Jeffrey.
Council, is it your concession that the water company should be nationalized, right?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Then you would say that it is most beneficial way to address the existing water crisis, correct?
Yes.
Yes, of course, thank you. Would you say that you are well aware of the economic standing of our country?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Thus, you would say that we are improving in our global economic outlook. Yes, right?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
But
would you agree that our country has an attractive valuation, meaning Philippine stocks are trading at a very cheap valuation?
So, what's
Yes.
the relevance, Your Honors?
Allow me, Counsel. Given that we have an attractive economic growth and valuations of stocks are cheap, then why are investments veering away in our country?
No, Your Honors,
need to
investments
answer
is
that
not
question.
our main
Counsel,
problem
I am
right
asking
now,
the question.
but
Please
the
do
water
respect
crisis,
my
Your
time.
Honors.
Counsel,
So please
thank
take
you,
to the water
Counsel.
crisis debate.
Counsel, this is because it is very clear. Threats of nationalization are sending chilling effects to business communities. That's why companies like Fraport AG
No,
and
Your Honors,
Swiss
that is
SA
not
are
the
no
problem. That is
longer
not the case.
investing in
Since
our
water firms
infrastructure
is not
program.
even one of
Now,
the top
Counsel,
five
do you
of
know
our
what is
investments.
ambition natin 2040?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Do you know how much investment is needed for infrastructure?
And how would that solve the water crisis, Your
Counsel,
Honors?
we need
They
a
don't
total
even
of
give
8 trillion
enough
pesos
mechanism.
and an annual GDP growth of 6.5% in order
And the
to
relevance and
realize
the
the
question
dream
is,
of
Paolo?
having predominantly middle-class Filipino people, which is
Paolo,
now
what's the
hampered
question?
simply because
And the question
investors
is?
don't trust our government anymore. Now, Counsel,
That's
would
not
you
the case, Your
still
Honor. The
say
water
that by
crisis is a
nationalizing these
major concern
companies,
right now.
the government will be able to provide necessary funds and investments without the help
Your
of
Honor,
the private
CorJesu
sector?
is banking
Of
on
course
investments
not.
when water
No more
crisis
questions,
is
Your
our-
Honor.
is our
Thank you
problem
very
right now.
much.
Okay, Paolo, you've got 4 minutes to tell us why it would not be in the country's best interest to nationalize the water companies.
Even without nationalization, water rights can still be secured to achieve optimal use of water resources, its conservation, and its preservation for allocative efficiency in application of the doctrine of public trust as established in the case of MWSS versus Secretary of the ENR. Your Honors, good evening. Tonight, Team CorJesu strongly argues that nationalizing water companies is not beneficial simply because the government is not ready for this drastic and needless measure. But before I proceed, Your Honors, allow me to rebut the erroneous claims of the affirmative. The affirmative is saying that privatization lead to the skyrocketing water rates. However, Your Honor, according to the PSA in its November 2019 report, water indices actually went down by 7.4%. Also, water concessionaires already agreed to suspend price hike this year. If indeed there is some probability of a price hike, this is precisely why we would like to address in proposing a renegotiation of the concession agreement by scrapping the non-interference clause and other onerous provision so that water concessionaires cannot unilaterally impose a price hike and thus making it more equitable to the public and the government. They are also saying, Your Honor, that the government could save through nationalization. However, Your Honor, we say that by providing low-cost water services, the government will be operating at a loss, which will eventually lead to another water crisis. The government will be under the repeated circumstance of owing millions of dollars. Truly, nationalization is not a sustainable solution. Now onto my argument. Nationalizing water companies is not beneficial because the need for investment is as pressing as ever, as enshrined in Section 20, Article 2 of the 1987 Constitution. In a December 9, 2019 report, Justice Secretary Guevara himself admitted that the government is not yet capable of taking on water resources.
Does privatization almost always lead to rate increase, given that it is fundamentally profit-driven?
Thank you for that question, Your Honor. Your Honor, it is our concession that what the Philippines need right now is privatization, Your Honor. It is because, Your Honor, the government does not have the proper funding in order to push forward the infrastructure, including the finding of the natural resources that would supply water, especially in Metro Manila. To continue, Your Honors, according to the Dublin Principle of International Law, yes, Your Honor.
But historically, have you examined statistics showing whether privatization will result in increase of prices?
Thank you for that question, Your Honor. Your Honor, again, Your Honor, it is a possibility. That is why we would like to renegotiate the concession agreement in order that the concessionaires, the project of the concessionaires will be amenable to the government and for the public, Your Honors. Thank you. To continue. Thus, yes, Your Honor.
Will alleviating such an essential need of the public, such as water, which is necessary for survival, counteract the threat of increasing the national debt as you have mentioned a while ago?
Yes, Your Honor. So far, Your Honor, we do not have the proper funding for the infrastructure distribution and the treatment of the water in Metro Manila especially. Your Honor, it is our concession that with the private sector, Your Honor, with their help, we could achieve our goal that every Filipino household will have access to water and there is less non-revenue water. To continue, Your Honor, according to the Dublin Principle of International Law,
2 minutes now for the cross-examination.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening, Council.
Are you aware of the USJR data of water rates? So actually, the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights revealed that water rates drastically increased by more than 357% for Manila and 414% for Manila water. So let's now do the computation. Since you said that 7%, it lowered at 7%. Wait, it's my time. It's my time. Please respect my time. Since you said that the water rates lowered by 7%,
for the people,
you're evading the question. So let's do the math. You said that the water rates lowered by 7%, right? That's
Again,
included
with
in
this
your
probability,
speech.
Council,
However,
we would like to
since there's
renegotiate
357%, so if 357% minus the 7
people.
Again, Council, do not evade the questions. It's hurting your case. Okay, listen. So since you said that 7% lower rates, right? It's in your speech. And
again,
since
Council,
the
nationalization is not the
my
answer.
time again. It's
Council,
my time.
you are very
Respect.
much confused. Actually, Council, to enlighten
okay,
you,
we'll
with
take
the
that.
government
Okay, Your
working
Honors,
or
I'll just
profit
pursue the question.
or
Since
selling the water at the loss,
CorJesu
the
is
government
evading
is
the question.
actually not
Okay.
gaining anything
Chill.
with nationalization.
Okay. Are you aware of the groundwater reservoir in our country? Major groundwater reservoir.
Enlighten me.
We have, if you're listening to my speech, we have the Cagayan Valley, the Central Luzon, the Agusan, and the Mag.
These are very far water
Your
resources
Honors,
which needs
still
much
my
more
time,
funding.
Paolo.
And
Please
with the help
respect
of
my
the
time.
private sector,
You had
we
your
could
time.
actually move forward in order to
Your
have
Honors,
access to water.
CorJesu is still evading the question. Still it hurts their case. But
How
it's
would
still
it
there.
hurt our case
Your
if
Honor,
we are
Your Honors,
providing to you
okay,
that
listen to the question.
nationalization is not the
Paolo,
answer? Okay,
Paolo,
continue.
so if we do cross-border water sharing from Cagayan Valley to Metro Manila, it will traverse
The
several
problem with
provinces,
that,
right?
Council, is that
No,
the government
it's answerable by
could
yes
not
or no. You're
provide
still
the
not
proper
answering the
funding,
question. You're still
even
not
the
responsive. So
distribution
take
and
it
the
as a yes.
treatment of water
And
from those
since
water resources
through
that
this
are much
traveling,
far
again,
away
Paolo, do not
in
evade the
Metro
question
Manila.
by
Actually,
answering
we
or
have the
blubbering.
Kaliwa Dam.
Again,
The
Paolo,
Kaliwa Dam would be-
Okay, thank you, second speakers. Let's now hear from the third affirmative speaker, Ronaldin. 4 minutes now to tell us why it would be practicable to nationalize the water companies.
Your Honors, good evening. Before I move on to my constructive, allow me to present a few rebuttals for the negatives argument. Your Honors, the negative uses a myopic view that at best only seeks to address the water crisis in Manila alone. It forwards that better terms agreement will magically solve the crisis. The negative fails to understand that the root cause of the problem is that not anymore the same problem as what we had back in 1994 and 1997 when privatization of MWSS was done. Your Honors, they failed to respond to affirmative's claim that the reason for nationalization is to ensure equitable distribution of water and sustainability of our water resources, not only in Manila, but all over the country, Your Honors. Secondly, negative insists that the impossibility... Yes, Your Honor.
Are you saying that the government will do a better job in managing the water resources of the country than the private firms?
Yes, Your Honors. It is our position that the government, the state, will do a better job because at the end of the day, the state is presumed juris tantum to always have the public welfare in mind. Now, Your Honors, they insist that nationalization is costly, thus it's close to impossible to doing that. This sends a message here. Yes, Your Honor.
You're violating concessionaire agreements. Do you intend to compensate them for the loss of profit that they will incur as a result of the nationalization that you're proposing?
I fully understand the concern, Your Honor. That will now lead me to my first argument, that the proposition is practicable because it can be done under the state's police power through expropriation. Your Honors, in the case of Association of Small Landowners versus Secretary of Agrarian Reform, the Supreme Court ruled that recent trends would indicate a commingling of police power and eminent domain. The latter, just like taxation, is used as an implement of the former. Now, Your Honors, in fact, Justice Cruz, citing Professor Costanis, referring to the case of Euclid versus Amber, that today the government uses eminent domain as a useful complement of police power. Your Honors, Yes, Your Honor.
So you're compensating private concessionaires and at the same time you're setting up infrastructure to integrate the Philippine water system. Where exactly do you intend to get funding for that?
I understand the concern, Your Honor. Your Honor, just because it's costly and, as Negative puts it, drastic of a measure, that doesn't mean, Your Honors, that the government can just continually could sit idly by when it can exercise its state powers, Your Honors. As for the funding, Your Honors, because it's costly does not mean that the government cannot look into other sources such as taxes. Yes, Your Honor.
But how are you going to pay for that when the 2020 budget is already finished?
I understand, Your Honor. Your Honor, aside from that, we also have development aid. And it's important to remember that these water firms are income-generating enterprises. And furthermore, Your Honor, the water companies that we seek to nationalize are, some of them, and most of them rather, Your Honors, are water districts. Meaning to say, they are government instrumentalities which, can already be nationalized from being a municipal body, Your Honors. This makes the proposition practicable, Your Honor. Thus, nationalization, Your Honor, any solution short of nationalization will not suffice because it will not see water as a public right, Your Honors. Now, Your Honors, nationalization, Your Honors, will in effect promote equitable distribution of water as well as sustainable use of water resources because the government will now then have a free hand to control and look over the water resources all over the country. Thus, the proposition shall fly, Your Honor.
2 minutes for the cross-examination.
Good evening, Counsel. Now, Counsel, are you familiar with the Maynilad bankruptcy in 2003?
Yes.
Thank you, Counsel. Then you know for a fact that it was then in the said year that the nationalization happened only for a period of 2 years, correct?
Yes, but that's
that is
not
part
really
of
the issue
history
in
and you
this
cannot
debate.
contend that. Counsel, do you know that subsequently the government sought for the reprivatization of water utility?
Yes, that's
that is part of the history of the case. Now, have you been watching the news lately, Counsel?
Yes.
Counsel, according to the January 7 interview of our MWSS chief regulator, that the only go-to strategy of the government would not be nationalization, but rather the reprivatization of our water
Robbie,
companies.
the problem
Counsel,
involves
that is a yes,
a
because
water
that is
resource,
according to an
a
interview.
human right.
Now, Counsel, are you familiar with the UN report of Water World Development
Yes,
in 2019?
which recognizes water
Thank
as
you,
a human
Counsel.
right.
It provides, the report provides, Counsel, that the Philippines is incapable of taking over water services in the country, which is why it needs the private companies for the distribution of
No,
water.
that was before.
Now, thank you,
The
Counsel.
government is capable
Counsel,
and it is
now
in the
let
best
me,
interest
Counsel,
to do
please
that.
allow me to ask my question,
Sure.
if you would. Now, Counsel, are you familiar with the economic benefits that our water concessionaires give to our economy?
Yes, but that's only
Yes, thank
in
you,
Manila.
Counsel.
We have water
Counsel,
districts all
Counsel,
over the
please allow
country
me
and
to ask
water
my
districts
question.
are not
I am
similarly
showing to you that
situated.
if you are going to take over the water companies, it would hurt our economy
No,
very
it will
badly.
not. It will
now,
promote
Counsel,
equitable distribution
Counsel,
of
please
water
allow me
and
to ask my
sustainability of
question.
our
Counsel, are you
resources,
familiar that
which is the
according to the
government's
BIR
job, by the
in
way.
2018, the water concessionaires all over the country, and I mean Laguna, Davao, Cebu, and also in Boracay, they have paid
which
a
are now
total
suffering
billion,
from saltwater
1.56
intrusion
billion
thanks to
pesos
the
in taxes.
over-extraction
And
by these
imagine
private
if you
water
would be
firms,
taking
right?
this away from them, it would hurt our economy badly. Now, Counsel, are you also familiar that these concessionaires pay a concession fee in the amount of more than 500
that's not
million
the issue in
pesos
this
every
debate, if you
year?
were listening.
And again, Counsel, if you are taking this away from the government because it is only be the resources,
If you take
then
control
you are
away from
hurting
the
our
government,
economy
that's
very
the
badly,
problem.
Counsel.
Robbie, 4 minutes now to tell us why it would not be practicable for the government to take back control of the water operators.
Publicly owned water, according to the World Water Development Report of the United Nations in 2018, provided that 40% of the people are left without access to water in developing countries, without any access to clean and safe water. Your Honors, we cannot run the same risk in our country, knowing fully well that our government is incapable of catering to this basic human need. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Honors, good evening. As the last speaker of the negative side, I will prove to you that it is not practicable for water resources or water services to be nationalized because based on a cost-benefit analysis, our country and the people will tend to lose more because prices will then skyrocket. Thank you, and also it will only worsen the state of our public waters. Your Honors, the contention for tonight's debate revolves around the question of whether we shall nationalize pertaining only to our water resources and not the aspect of distribution. But Your Honors, please allow me to rebut the erroneous claims of the affirmative. Your Honors, they contend that cross-water boarding sharing is possible, but please let us remember, Your Honors, that in the past, our water concessionaires in Greater Luzon have already spent 394 billion pesos. Imagine if we would be doing this to the country. The immensity of the debt of the Philippines, Your Honors, makes this a distant possibility. They also contend, Your Honors, that cross-border sharing would be possible by sharing resources from other parts of the Philippines. Your Honors, it is also their erroneous contention that it is a violation of the concession agreement. But please let us not forget, Your Honors, that the resources and the control and supervision of these resources are still under the effective control of the government, Your Honors. Your Honors, they're also saying that this is a valid exercise of police power. But we suggest, Your Honors, that we do not need to resort to these extreme power of police power, because we can address this with our status quo, Your Honors, and that is by strengthening the public-private partnership, because we have to admit it that it is the privatization or the private companies that brings in investment, pumps in the capital, brings us the infrastructure, because in sourcing out water, Your Honors, we need to build infrastructures. We need to build storage facilities and treatment plants, and also with the additional source of water, we need to be able to have a distribution facility. Now, this would incur greater expenses for our government, Your Honors. Your Honors, I also would like to point forward a certain point. Nationalization would simply be not feasible, considering that our government is 7.58 trillion pesos in debt, and it would require, in the Greater Luzon area alone, Your Honors, it would require 5.6 billion pesos to operate a water company. How much more if we will operate it in the entire country, and we would forward for a creation of, or looking for a new water resources. Your Honors, it is also not in the best interest of a country to nationalize water companies, because it will badly hurt our economy. We will tend to lose billions in taxes. For example, Maynilad and Manila Waters themselves have been paying 1.7 billion pesos every year and a concession fee of 200 million pesos every year. And if we take over the operations of these companies, then this will hurt our economy badly. Also, Your Honors, these companies are employing 5,000. Yes, Your Honor?
Your position is that privatization rather is
Yes,
better
Your
than nationalization.
Yes, Your Honor.
But you will have to admit we still have a water crisis, right?
Thank you for that question, Your Honors. Your Honors, that is not solely because of the lack of water source. We also have El Nino, the weak southeast monsoon, overpopulation, and these are problems beyond the control of the water concessionaires, and even the government cannot themselves. Thank you, Your Honor.
2 minutes for the cross-examination.
Good evening, Robbie.
Good evening.
I take that you've read Association of Small Landowners versus Secretary of Agrarian Reform?
Yes, Counsel.
Very good. Then did it say there that there is a commingling of police power and eminent domain, yes?
Yes, Counsel.
That's
But it is our proposition
now,
that we need not resort to this extreme police power.
Have you read the Long Island Water Supply
Yes,
versus
Counsel.
Brooklyn? Okay, then did it not say there that the contracts such as concession agreements are property rights?
Yes, Counsel.
Good, right?
But
Very
in
good.
effect,
Now
it cannot
then,
supersede
is it-
public interest,
Robbie?
Counsel. Counsel,
Listen
you
to the
cannot
question so that you could
public
have an
interest.
intelligent answer.
Yes,
now,
Counsel.
Are contracts property rights?
Yes, Counsel.
So then it's subject to condemnation proceedings of the
Yes,
state,
Counsel,
right?
but it
Very
is
good.
also
Now, let's
subject
move on,
to the
Robbie.
best interest
Okay,
of the
I'll show you.
state.
I'll
Although
give you
it
a
is the law
situation and
between
you
the
tell me if
parties,
it's doable
it is
or
subject
not,
to
Robbie.
modification if it
Listen
is
to the
for the best
question.
interest of the public.
Listen to the question.
Yes, Counsel.
All right. So if I'm a concessionaire from Cebu and you're a concessionaire from Davao, for instance, and I ran out of water, can I
Counsel,
ask
that is
water
a very
from you?
distant possibility
Just answer
because
the
that
question.
is economically
If you're
not
confident
possible.
with your model, just
because
answer
the
the question.
government do
Can I
not
ask
have the
water from
finances,
you?
and even
Can
though
I?
they have the finances,
You're not
let us
being
not
very
forget,
responsive.
Counsel, that it is not the
You're not very
negligence and
responsive,
inefficiency of the
Counsel.
government which led us to owing $880
Are you
million
running out of
in debt
answers?
for the previous water concession.
Counsel,
Yes,
can I
Counsel.
ask water from you? If
Yes,
you're a
Counsel.
concessionaire, I can.
Repeat the question, Council.
That's why you should listen. If you're a concessionaire and
Council,
I'm a
we are forwarding
concessionaire,
that cross-border
that's
sharing
really
is a
evading the
distant
question, and it's not
possibility,
prudent for a
Council.
council to do
Because
that.
it is not possible because we do not have the
Council?
infrastructure for
Can
cross-border
I ask
sharing.
water from you? Can I ask water from you if
That
you're
is
a
not part
concessionaire?
of the recent problem, Council.
And that's something
because
that you
this
should
is the
answer.
greater water
Because that's
source
part of
is the part,
respecting my
and you
time.
cannot source out because
That's
that
not
is very
responsive,
impossible
really.
because we do not have the
I'll take that as
infrastructure
a yes,
for tonight.
right? Now then, if I could ask water from you, then can you refuse?
What is the question? The context of the
Because you're
question,
not listening.
Council.
Okay, thank you, ladies. And with that, we end the debate proper. We now invite both sides to cross the House as our judges tally the scores.
I would like to congratulate the affirmative side for taking charge of a position that is not only in vogue, but has evoked a lot of emotions of different from a very broad spectrum all over the country. And the research that the affirmative side was able to undertake is quite impressive. But what really strikes me the most about the performance of the affirmative today is how in control they are and how consistent they are with their position, even during the interpellations, and also their capability in taking charge of an interpellation, and that I think will make a very big difference for them in this debate. So congratulations to both sides.
And Dean Mawis, how did the negative side, the CorJesu College, do?
Well, you did very well. You were very articulate and passionately believed in your cause. Okay, I am sure your school, your dean, you made them very proud. Okay, thank you.
Now let's hear from our chief adjudicator, Attorney Lopez. Your Honor, who did the judges pick for Best Speaker?
Before that, I'd just like to congratulate both teams. And I'd just like to comment that during interpellation, please respect your opposing counsel's time. Because you actually lose points when you do not respect this. In practice, you also respect your opposing counsel. Okay. So, for the Best Speaker, by a split decision, the judges chose Robbie Camille Desabel.
And who is this season's grand champion?
And the grand champion, which was again a split decision and with a very small point differential. Congratulations, CorJesu College.
A big congratulations to CorJesu College for being this season's grand champion, besting all the other schools. I'm Mike Yoreta. Thank you.